Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Pamela Atkinson, Chair of the UCAP Board, and our host for today.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. You know, this is a good day to be inside because it's overcast and cloudy. So we've asked that the sun appear after 12:30 when the conference finishes so that you can go out and enjoy the sunshine. But we are most grateful for your attendance here. As you know, it sometimes seems like the people who are into pornography, they just take giant steps and nothing's being done about it. But as many of you know, there's a great deal being done about it today. There's a great deal of attention being paid to the connection between pornography and the sexual assaults that appear to be increasing. There's a great deal of concern that during the pandemic, the number of people who got into pornography increased by 11%. That's a huge number, and we're concerned that the people who have been affected by the COVID-19, the lockdowns, the isolation, are turning more and more to this issue. And that is why we're grateful for you being here and our speakers today. As you know, last year we canceled the spring conference. We were very sad to do that, but out of sheer necessity and obeying the law, it wasn't good to get together. But we had a great time down in St. George at the conference that we did hybrid like this, people in the audience, and we had over 2,000 people attended on Zoom from across the country, and two other countries were involved too. The word went out and it was streaming live, so people were able to see it where they were. I hope you will let us know how you feel about this being on Zoom. Welcome to you all. I'm not the best Zoom face, I've decided, but I'm sorry, the last speaker was so much better looking. But you know, every time I'm on a Zoom call, I see my face there on the camera and I think, oh, good gracious, I think I'll turn the camera off, but this isn't a place to turn the camera off. So I'm going to leave it on for all of you who have kindly joined us. And for those of you in the audience, we are grateful that you've taken the time to come here. And I've decided, looking at this group, it's really not the quantity, it's quality. So feel you are quality here today, and that's why you're involved in this issue. And those of you on Zoom, you are also quality, and you're helping us fight this scourge that we have around the world and here in Utah. We think that the more people who get involved, and I'm going to say this twice, once at the beginning and once at the end, the more chance we have of fighting this awful scourge. And your task, you didn't think you were going to leave without an assignment, did you? Your task is to tell at least 10 people in the next 2 weeks, 1, how awful this issue is, 2, were they aware it was in their own neighborhood and in their own schools, and at the click of a button, and go online, and that even if you take the phone away from one of your kids, according to the last survey, the kids use their friends' phones. But tell them what they can do. Tell them to go to the UCAP site online. Tell them to look at what they should do and shouldn't do, and help their kids understand what it is they need to do when they come across pornography. But we're going to give you tools that you can pass on to at least 10 people. They can be family, they can be friends, or if you're up to it, you can talk with a perfect stranger about it just because you feel like you want to get to know that person. But don't be afraid to bring up the issue and just say, did you know? And you'll find a lot of stats and data. I won't go over them today, but on our website and the tools with how to deal with them. I'd be remiss if I didn't make a plug for the UCAP website, which I've done twice now, and feel free to go there. The other thing, and you've heard it once or twice this morning, we do rely on donations. Comes from our foundation friends. It comes from individual donors, different agencies. So feel free, and if you feel like donating 5, 10, or you could always add the extra zeros on, whatever you want to do. But it makes such a difference, and when your amount is put alongside other people's amounts, it really adds up, and it makes such a difference. And it's helpful when we go to foundations and different companies and ask for financial assistance. We say 100% of our board have donated, and this many individual donations have come in from the general public, and it would be just great, and we'd really, really appreciate it. One of the friends of UCAP, Colin Karshner, died recently, and he's a great loss. How many of you have heard Colin speak before? Look at that. That's great. He had such a huge impact on people's lives, and he got people involved. Once I started watching him pulling up his videos, I couldn't stop. It was almost magnetic, and he's really a great loss. We felt, he spoke at the last 2 conferences, and we just felt we couldn't get enough of him. And to die at that soon after the last rally for Hope and Healing in St. George, it was an incredible shock. And he introduced us to Smith, one of our speakers today, who we're eager to hear. Our love goes out to Liz and his family and the children and the whole Karshner family, and to Michelle and Rigby with Save the Kids and our entire community. And one of the people who knew him well is a member of our board, Clay Olson. He knew him as a close friend, and I know they shared many times together. And we wanted to pay tribute to Colin today. And I'll tell you something. His first name with the 2 L's, that was my maiden name. That's why I felt close to him. You don't come across many people, but I used to be Pamela Colin with the 2 L's, and I always thought of that every time I saw him or heard him. So it's very special. But we thought, in order to pay tribute to him in a respectful way and to honor him and his family, that we would like to invite Clay Olson as a member of our board and a close friend, just to say a few words about him and introduce a short video. Thank you, Clay.
Pamela, you did so well kind of setting the stage for who this man was. And I have the privilege of introducing this next segment and honoring an individual whose impact cannot be overstated. We were so blessed to be able to learn from him, to be able to catch the fire that he would ignite in the audiences and in the individuals that he would speak to. And I had the opportunity to speak in many conferences alongside him, and I never truthfully enjoyed going right after him because he was so great at captivating the audience and just getting them on fire and putting their fists in the air to fight and do better. And I learned from him. I've been inspired by him, as have all of us, and we continue to be. And then that's the most important piece of this, is that although he's no longer able to go out and speak in person, his message will continue and is continuing on. And I think that there are many that he has inspired over the years that are picking up the torch collectively to not let that message die and to help those that are in need of that type of support. And so we love Colin. We honor him. We recognize the loss in our own lives, but also in the loss of his own family. And we'd love to honor him in this next video and show you this tribute video.
When I met Colin, I was like a little shocked because he just loved me right off the bat, and I was like, this isn't normal. What are you doing?
The best thing about him was that he loved music, he loved Nikes, and he loved his family.
I'm sure it's the same for many of us. The very first interaction with Colin is always sort of this amazing, magical thing.
The things that he said to make you love each other more, to put down your phone and connect with each other.
They'd be coming in with that jab cross, and he'd be like, duck, 8-second hug to a kid, right hook, and he'd drop them.
He showed us that us kids are worth fighting for, and also how important family is.
The movement, his message is not gonna stop. It's up to all of us to keep it going.
Maybe social media that we thought was helping us connect and learn and, be connected with strangers, maybe it's really doing damage.
She went into the bedroom and slammed the door, and I lost it. I walk into the room, and I go, what is wrong? Why are you so mad? Why are you doing such good things at school, but you're making such bad choices at home? And this little precious human being looked at me, and with tears in her eyes, she said, why do you love your phone more than you love me? That was the only wake-up call I needed.
This pandemic's been going on for a long, long time, affecting a lot of people, killing hearts of millions.
For the people who are saying, when is the appropriate age to give little Johnny a cell phone? When do I give Johnny a smartphone? My reply is always, when are you okay with him to start looking at pornography?
And he says, are you gonna bite me? And the snake says, I promise I won't bite you. But then one day he gets bit. This mom was in tears. She's like, my 2 sons are in therapy now. They've been doing this for 4 to 6 months. I said, how old are they? She said, 4 and 6. When you hand your kid a snake, they're going to get bit. There's no more question of, is this going to happen? It's going to. And stuff on social media is brainwashing me into saying that porn isn't that bad. I wonder where he read that. These kids are in prison, and we gave them the prison keys. And they don't know what to do. We put them there, and they're just floundering. We have to step up. But we have to change our thinking with our kids that yes, porn kills love, but love will kill porn.
That was quite touching, wasn't it? I honestly believe that between Clay and the video, that we were able to catch the real essence of who Colin was. Young people were attracted to him because of his vision, because what he said was true. He was teaching them something about social media that they perhaps hadn't thought of, and that much in life goes on aside from social media. with the one-on-one contact. So we're grateful to Liz for permission to have this video here. But most of all, we're grateful for the legacy of Colin and what he taught us and what he taught thousands of people. And I don't think he'll ever be forgotten, Clay, will he? Never. That's an incredible legacy. So thank you. And for those of you who didn't know Colin, I hope you appreciated the dynamism of this man who was able to get young people, young adults, and teenagers really listening to the problems that have actually occurred. Let's see. As many of you know, UCAP has been greatly impacted and saddened by the loss of not only Colin, but so many other people who were helping us. And we really want to say to their relatives that those who have died of COVID and have been involved with us before, we very much appreciate them and their memories. And they also will never be forgotten. Our keynote speaker is Sister Sharon Eubank. She was going to be the speaker last year, and of course we had to cancel it. But Sharon is a good friend. I just love that lady. I'm Presbyterian and she's Church of Jesus Christ, but we have so much in common. And when we talk about the activities that we're involved in, like many of you, in reaching out and helping people who have so many needs. And she's just a great lady. She was called as a general officer of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the first counselor to President Gene Bingham in the General Relief Society presidency. And that leadership is involved in 7.5 million Relief Society members in 162 countries. She's a remarkable person because she's not only doing that in the Relief Society, but she's also the president of the Latter-day Saint Charities, which works in more than 2,000 communities in over 160 countries. So she really does have the worldwide perspective. But she doesn't forget the little things in life. And a couple of years ago, she went on a tour over in Europe, and she stopped off in the UK. And she knows I really enjoy British newspapers. And you know, she carried 4 British newspapers in her suitcase all over Europe before she came back to give them to me. She's just that thoughtful person. And so when she saw the newspaper, when she got to London, and she thought, got to get that for Pamela. And then she'd see another one, got to get that for Pamela. And I just so appreciate her thoughtfulness. But that's the kind of energy that she brings to anything that she's involved in. And when she was in Moscow, in Russia, and saw what was happening with the men and women there, and the men into drugs and pornography, and the women being left very much alone. She's worked in many organizations and in different countries, and during the Syrian conflict, and Global Operations Director for 7 years. She's an amazing woman, and I'm glad to be able to introduce her. And I have to say, she is sorry she's not able to be here. We do have a video, but she's on the other side of Salt Lake County giving a speech. As we say, I got pipped at the post, and my request to her came after. I think the other one had been in there 6 months, so she felt she had to keep that. But please enjoy her, and know she's a very special person and has done a great deal in life to aid other people. When I hear her a few months ago speak to a crowd of people from all over the world, And it was just amazing afterwards to see the crowd around her asking more questions and asking her to visit their countries too. So please enjoy Sharon Eubank. Thank you.
I'm very grateful for the invitation to speak today, and I'm also grateful for the Utah Coalition Against Pornography's mission and its continuing work. Now, Pamela Atkinson is a woman after my own heart, but I run to keep up with her energy and her passion for the best causes, but I'm very thankful for Pamela. Her leadership is a gift to this organization. And I'm also thankful for everyone who's listening and participating, who has a stake in healing from the effects of pornography in ourselves, in our families, and in our communities. Now, you might remember last year that a closing keynote speaker was to be Colin Karchner, and Colin unexpectedly passed away last October. I can hear his voice in my head for reducing children's social media exposure and for increasing our personal eye-to-eye connection with one another. And I want to honor him and let his family know as the conference begins that we also miss him very much. My family has a house in the mountains, and it has this big sliding glass door that looks out over the forest. And we love that window because we can look out into nature, we can see the stars and the rain rolling in, and we can see the fall colors. But for a large number of birds, that window is a death trap. They don't perceive the window at all. What they see is a reflection of the trees, and they think it's something that it isn't. And they go sailing into what they think is an interesting open sky, and they get stopped cold against a pane of glass that they never knew was there. And some of them break their necks and they're gone. And some of them are knocked senseless, and they fall to the deck like this owl with a large thud. My sister and I have spent countless hours putting birds on blankets and nursing them until they come back to their senses. And sometimes, when no one's at the cabin, the camera catches a scene like this one. So there's a bird that's hit that window and it's out in the snow. And a crow starts taking an interest in that fallen bird that's lying in the snow. And he pokes around to see if it's going to recover. And when it seems paralyzed, he calls his friends. And, well, okay, there's a reason that the collective noun for these birds is called a murder of crows. Why am I telling this story? Because technology is a beautiful glass window that allows us access to so many good things. But hidden within the technology is a death trap of pornography. The windows come in all shapes and all sizes. They're very fashionable, but each window reflects something that looks like reality, and it's not. We think we're flying into some new view that's simply interesting or stimulating or that's going to broaden our horizons until we slam up against a pane of glass that we never knew was there. It can stun us, it can knock us cold, and it can break our necks. And then shame comes along like black crows, only too happy to just pick us apart. Pornography is in every corner of our culture. Let me just briefly share some statistics. The online pornography industry generates about $15 billion in revenue each year in the United States. Globally, it's a $97 billion industry. In 2020, websites hosting pornography received more traffic than Twitter, Instagram, Netflix, Zoom, Pinterest, LinkedIn combined. 25% of the search engine requests are related to sex. 35% of the downloads on the internet are pornographic. And 40 million Americans say they regularly visit websites that are hosting pornography. In 2019 alone, this is astonishing, the equivalent of nearly 6,650 centuries worth of pornography was consumed on just one of the world's largest pornography sites. We used to teach our families to avoid pornography. That's no longer possible. It comes at us in this constant barrage in the most innocent of places. We are specifically targeted by a voracious industry that's all about money and power and increasingly about violence. Because of this, we're going to have to learn how to talk about it more openly with our children, with our spouses, with our fiancés, with our schools, and with our policymakers. But how we talk about it matters immensely. As I said, exposure is all but assured, but what happens after exposure is one of my main points today. Pornography exposure leads to two common personal and cultural responses. At one end of the spectrum is acceptance, and at the other end is shame. And both of these are destructive, but they're destructive in different ways. Acceptance is increasingly the argument of the pornography industry, and those who would tell us that viewing pornography it's harmless, it's normal. They might say if you stigmatize pornography, you're setting people up for failure for something that's natural and it's not hurting anyone else. That argument is false. Pornography is dangerous because it hits fantasy and checkout and speed pleasure centers in the brain. The brain can't tell the difference between what's real and what's virtual fantasy. And it gets a huge rush by looking at pornography, and it becomes almost emotionally attached to those images. It becomes less attached to people in the real world because they don't stimulate that same kind of rush. That feedback loop drastically alters the way the brain processes stimulation, and it's not in any way normal or natural. Acceptance of pornography retards the very human qualities that make our lives rich and fulfilling. Things like connection and empathy and generosity and discipline and joy in the moment. Shame, on the other hand, affects every person touched by pornography, including spouses and children and parents and friends of anyone who's using pornography. And it's almost never the case of not hurting anyone else. I recently read a newspaper interview with the actor Ben Affleck, and I thought he captured pretty well the thought processes that spiral someone down into shame. This is what he said. He said, people with compulsive behavior, and I'm one, have this kind of basic discomfort all the time that they're trying to make go away. You're trying to make yourself feel better with eating or drinking or sex or gambling or shopping or whatever it is. But that ends up making your life worse. And then you do more of it to make that discomfort go away, and then the real pain starts. It becomes a vicious cycle you can't break. That's at least what happened to me. Shame is really toxic. There's no positive byproduct of shame. It's just stewing in a toxic, hideous feeling of low self-worth and self-loathing. I thought that was pretty descriptive. Guilt is the natural response we feel when our conscience is pricked because we've done something we know to be wrong, and within normal, healthy limits, guilt can teach us to avoid the things that we know we should avoid and align our behavior to our values. Shame, on the other hand, is just what Ben Affleck talked about. It's paralyzing self-loathing that stops all forward motion with its insistent repetition that we are unworthy failures at our very core. Shame isolates us from doing the very things that would help bring us back to life after hitting that pane of glass. So when we're tackling and talking about pornography, we need to find ways to reduce shame as much as possible because it doesn't help. Part of the healing is recognizing shame and talking about it and moving past it into something more productive. These two poles, acceptance and shame, are both wrong. They're both the wrong approach, and yet it's mostly where most of us land. All right, what's a better way? Allow me to propose a framework that could guide the conversations about pornography in ways that would be productive and effective. This communication framework is centered on the principles of faith, hope, and charity. Faith has many facets, but I just want to talk about three. The first one is faith in God. Now, most recovery programs recognize that empowering strength comes from an individual's trust in a higher power. My own faith tradition teaches that God is our Father and that we're all His divine children. True faith grows from understanding what God's character is like toward His children. The idea that God is a harsh and exacting judge who's ready to condemn us for our imperfections, it doesn't really square with Holy Scripture. The mission of Jesus Christ is to help us understand the loving nature of God the Father and His desire that we'll trust our burdens to His help. He says, He is mighty to save. One of the most helpful explanations about God's loving character is in Luke chapter 11. And this is where Jesus explains, if a son shall ask bread of any that is a father, will he give him a stone? Or if he ask a fish, will he give him a serpent? Or if he shall ask an egg, will he offer him a scorpion? If ye then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, How much more shall your heavenly Father give to them that ask him? That's very helpful to me. Faith in God's good character is incredibly reassuring. If you ask him for help, in the smallest, even unsteady way, he's not going to upbraid you. He will give you liberally. He already knows everything about you, and he still loves you. He has faith that you can improve. And if you are being affected by someone else's choices, he opens up his arms to you. He's going to help you come to accept that other people's feelings and behaviors are not because of you. You're not the cause of their feelings. Shame is toxic, and it leads nowhere, and that's for people who participate in any way. You need healing, and faith in God is going to be good medicine. The second part of faith is to have faith in each other. The effects of pornography create a lot of wreckage. There's going to be discouragement and distrust. There are broken hearts and broken promises, and there's a lot of shame and a lot of sorrow. But worst of all is this isolation that cuts us off from anyone who might try to help us, because pornography use tends to divide and distance us from one another. The best way to fight the silence and the secrecy is by linking arms, turning the lights back on, and doing it together rather than by ourselves. The third aspect of faith is communities of faith. Part of that solidarity with each other comes through faith communities that provide really powerful sources of strength and support when we're going through something challenging. This is true of any faith community, regardless of the denomination or the tradition. It helps so much when you know you're just not the only one, and your experience can also help others. So lean on your family, lean on your neighbors and friends who make up your community, and let our communities become safety nets that catch and support all those who slip and fall. But faith to heal and recover and advocate and legislate and prevent is going to require a collective effort, and I think it's important to know that. It's part of the mission of why we're all here today. Okay, so what can we do for each other in practical terms that are concrete? How do you start a conversation that can feel so awkward? Let me suggest 5 things. The first one is just simply ask. You don't have to guess what a person needs. You can ask them. You can say, "Tell me, what can I do for you right now?" Or "Tell me more about that. I don't understand that." Or "Is there anything more?" Second, you can listen without judgment. Listening to someone talk about painful things can be really difficult, but be with them in their suffering. Seek to understand their position. Help them identify true emotions that they're feeling that they may have been cut off from. And you can pace yourself. You can take a break when you need one. That's fine. The third thing is simply just being with each other, building human relationships. You don't need to fix everything. Empathy isn't the same as fixing, but we can't fix someone else's shame. But we can do a lot of good by being with that person while they work toward fixing their own shame. And sometimes quality time is the most valuable resource a person can give. So be patient. It's going to take a while, and let's just be with each other. Number 4, don't compare. Don't say, "Oh, it could be worse," or share some other story of some other instance, because that just feels like someone who had it worse and who's handling it better. So that isn't very productive. What could be productive is number 5. Validate their pain, their suffering, and their experience, and then help them take whatever next step they want to take to move forward. There's no magic formula in these 5 steps, but they help us begin, and then each person's healing journey starts from there. We've talked about faith. Now I want to talk about hope. The process of healing for anybody who's been touched by pornography in any way can't begin without hope. We have to have hope for change, for healing, for recovery, for connection. Let me share a story about a couple whose hope is carrying them through the biggest waves of their marriage. And this isn't a story that everything's all right in the end, because they're in the middle of it, but they've already come a long way. So first, listen to the words of Tina.
My first husband had a pornography problem. I was shocked and betrayed. It led to affairs that broke up the marriage. It was important to me that my next spouse not be involved in pornography. A couple of years into my second marriage, I thought we were not connecting as much as I thought we could. I spoke to my husband and he didn't respond. I asked him several times, "Are you watching pornography?" And he always said no. One morning, he was sick in bed and I got in the car to go get him some breakfast. When I turned on the engine, his phone in the house was paired to the Bluetooth in the car, and I could hear the audio of pornography website he turned on. I was devastated. The reality of, here I am again. I couldn't believe I was back in the same position after trying so hard to avoid it, and with someone whom I felt 100% would never do that. I'm so tired of recovering from men who are supposed to love and be committed to me. We separated for 4 months, but we both loved each other. We began counseling together. We are still in it. My trust level has started out as a 1, and now we're about a 5 over the last 7 months. Some days are a 3, but all days are better than they were. I fight panic from the triggers. It's not a one-time thing to fix. You have to grasp the iron rod so tightly, because if you don't, the bitterness sets in and you poison yourself. But we are making progress.
Pornography is the biggest problem, but no one talks about it. I want to do whatever I can to bring it to the forefront. I estimate that 80% of the men in my circle have this problem in their recent history. Pornography isn't a religious issue, it's a social issue. Even if I wasn't religious, it would affect the way I look at the opposite sex and how I relate to them. That hurts society. In order to heal, I had to get past the shame and basically say, I don't care who knows I'm in recovery. The counseling program I am in teaches you not to self-hate. The program gives unique tools I would never have had on my own. I learned some gospel practices I didn't know. One of the most important was that my Heavenly Father forgave me before I even asked Him. You can't do it alone. My advice is to commit to it 100% and get someone to help you, hopefully your spouse. Every single person is going through some sin that they need to be forgiven of. We are all in this. It's the hardest battle a man can face, and you need help. You need someone who loves you really deeply, so don't push them away. I would also say talk about pornography, and not just in the abstract. Talk about the effects that deaden your spirit, that hurt your relationships. Be proactive. Don't be out on the battlefield being shot at without any kind of knowledge to protect yourself. If we hide it, don't talk about it, then we give it a lot of power. Now, since I moved to a new ward, I went straight to my bishop and let him know. I am here if you need me to help others.
This couple is making progress on their issues, and they've already healed a lot, and they're going to heal more. So there's hope. You can be in the trenches with someone and not necessarily be injured by that. I spoke to Melanie Holt, who leads a pornography addiction group here in Utah, and this is what she said. She said, you can be the medic, but you can't be the savior. They have to save themselves. You can't let go of the iron rod to rescue others, but you can support them emotionally and let the Savior do his job. It doesn't mean you don't love them, it means that you do. So often, we don't want people to have to do hard things, but they have to do it to progress. Otherwise, rescuing people cripples them. It's just like rehab or physical therapy. You have to do the muscle work to get strong. Finally, in this communication framework, I want to talk about charity. Charity Never Faileth is the motto for the Relief Society. The Relief Society is the women's organization of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I currently serve as the first counselor in the general presidency of the Relief Society. In Spanish, the phrase charity never faileth translates in my sort of rough translation, but it's the love which never ceases to be. And I find that evocative. I think that's really beautiful. The scriptures say that charity, the pure love of Christ, is greater than all things. And it's infinitely more powerful than the false versions of love that are being peddled by those who exploit the best and most beautiful of human relationships for personal or corporate gain. Charity is the ultimate antidote to the effects of pornography. Why would I say that? Because while pornography is inherently and fundamentally selfish in nature, charity is kind, it's not puffed up, it seeketh not her own, it believeth all things, it hopeth all things, it endureth all things. So I'm going to play 3 clips from individuals who are using charity to overcome the influence of pornography in their lives. and see if you don't find something useful for yourself as you listen to them talk about learning to use love in order to heal. The first is from a 15-year-old boy who is overcoming a pornography habit.
What is shame like for you?
You feel bad about yourself, like everything about you is wrong. It's lonely.
What has helped neutralize shame?
Moving on, self-compassion, remembering I'm not perfect. Pornography isn't in me anymore.
This next one is a 26-year-old mother of 2 young children who learned a few months ago that her spouse of 5 years has a sexual addiction, including pornography.
What is shame like for you?
Shame has become a defining characteristic in my life. It often leads me to take on responsibilities for my husband's actions. That same shame leads me to believe I am only valuable when other people tell me I am, or when I am successful at fixing things for other people. In a lot of ways, my shame has become my addiction.
What has helped neutralize shame?
I think that combating shame is not a one-time decision. It is a daily process and a decision I make multiple times every day to not allow fear to dictate how I feel. Self-forgiveness and also self-compassion are helpful. It is helpful to see things from a place of reality and to show compassion for myself. I'm practicing those things many times a day until it becomes ingrained in me.
And finally, this clip from a 51-year-old woman. She's a mother of 4 who found out after 20 years of marriage that her husband has a pornography addiction, and he's been in recovery for 9 years, and they're still married.
What is shame like for you?
I allowed shame to occupy far too much of my life. I could not find personal worth beyond my shame. Looking in a mirror, I was always seeing a very skewed version of me. I knew in my mind and heart who I wanted to be, but I never believed I could become that person. Shame feeds on lies and fear, and is a constant abusive companion.
What has helped neutralize your shame?
Wanting to be different, believing I could change my mindset, making daily effort to face my fears from a place of courage was a game changer. Self-compassion, patience, continual effort, and learning to be mad at shame instead of mad at me made a difference. Unraveling all the knots of shame that were so deeply embedded was complicated because it felt like my normal, but it was possible. Though many of us would like other people to fix our problems, they can't. Overcoming shame for me was a decision. I decided I wanted to live in joy more than I wanted to live in shame.
Well, let me extend some invitations. First, let's start with our children. Let's start early with our children. Consider carefully when to put technology into their hands, and don't be too influenced by what their peers are doing. You're going to have to teach them how to protect themselves and what to do when they're exposed to pornography. So talk with them often. Talk about what they're seeing and help them resolve their problems early. And teach them why pornography is harmful and where they can go to get help. Nothing takes the place of caring parents and family relationships that are full of understanding. So let's start there. My second invitation is for spouses. Let's communicate as spouses by talking early, and then let's not stop talking. We are going to have to support one another in protecting our marriages from the influence of pornography that's everywhere. And even if neither spouse has a problem with pornography, becoming comfortable talking about it is going to strengthen our ability to make good choices in the future and to help other people talk about it. The third invitation would be for fiancés. Okay, the first date, it's probably not the best time to bring up the topic of pornography, but if either partner has struggled or currently struggles, the conversation needs to happen as the relationship starts, and then it becomes more serious. And it doesn't have to blow the relationship apart. There's no telling how your partner's going to respond, but honesty and candor early on are going to lead to stronger relationships in the long run. What about schools? We have to be actively involved in letting our voices be heard in our schools, and parents are the best advocate for their children. So we should work to articulate our concerns and our desires regarding children's educational experience and also the culture of the school. And finally, policymakers. I would say in the same way that communities of faith can strengthen individuals, so can coalitions of like-minded people that are united around a common goal. That can be a formidable voice in the legislative arena. So I invite you to explore this. Much good can be accomplished in the world of public policy to protect children and hold those involved in sexual exploitation accountable if we raise our voices collectively. In April 2016, the Utah legislature made Utah the first state in the nation to declare pornography a public health crisis. And in the 5 years since they did that, 15 additional states have passed similar resolutions, with at least one other state that's considering it. I've loved spending this time with you today, even virtually. I'm glad for the opportunity to speak, and I look forward to the remainder of the conference. And I hope that if you'll allow me, I might conclude with a little blessing from Almighty God upon us as we fight these battles. And I'll start with the encouraging words of Paul to the Romans. He said, "Nay, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. For I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God which is in Christ Jesus our Lord." Thank you very much.
Loved one does not need to lose these battles and live in a position of hopelessness and frustration and demoralization for the rest of their lives. It's difficult, it's scary, it's agonizing. And so many of them try to just figure it out on their own. This is unnecessary. There's no need for a warrior who wants to learn how to win psychological self-mastery behaviors by themselves. We specifically designed the Sons of Human program for those young men who want to be in an environment of camaraderie, of encouragement, of training, of expectation in a healthy and edifying manner, so that they can gather the principles, the skills, and the ability to acquire the sexual self-mastery they've always wanted. There's no reason for them to enter the adult world feeling pathetic in these ways. They just need to discover the Sons of Helaman program.
If you have a loved one caught in the trap of pornography or other difficult challenges of our day, I get it. There are so many women that understand that more than you could ever expect. Mothers Who Know is a Christ-centered online forum for all women who are seeking to know how to arm and support themselves and someone that they love. Mothers Who Know can teach you how to cheerfully do many things that lie in your power, and then peacefully stand still as you support the Savior's work. Come link arms with us. Don't be by yourself. We're so much stronger together. Come and discover a more peaceful, purposeful you here at Mothers Who Know.
Well, thank you, Sharon Eubank. I always learn something from her. I hope you did too. I know many of you know much about what she was talking and actually help very many people too. But I think being reminded of what shame does to people, I can't tell you. I think, Vorna, you were emphasizing shame in your Reach 10, and how important that was for people to understand. It's very easy to shame somebody, and then those shameful thoughts that have been shared with other people, and we know there are a lot of people who have been harmed by people shaming them, and I like that reminder. I also liked her reminder about listening. We haven't been doing enough listening. The other day I listened to a homeless friend of mine, and he talked and he talked, and I listened, and he finally said, "Well, Pamela, you've listened now to me for 46 minutes. And he said, "I feel so much better." And I said, "Well, how do you know it was 46 minutes? So he said, "There's a clock behind you." So, but he said, "Nobody's listened to me for 46 minutes. But I picked up so many things by carefully listening to him." One was he liked pornography, but he shared some of his life and what had led up to that moment. So it was easy to listen and then make the necessary referrals. But listening is so important, and I want you to listen to this young man. His name is Smith Alley, and Colin, actually, as I said, introduced him to us down in St. George. And we were so delighted with what he had to say as a young man, 17. He started a non-profit. He started another company. He's done much in his short life. But the main thing he's doing is working with a lot of young people about pornography and what he'd gone through. And I won't spoil it and tell you his story. I just want you to sit back and enjoy and learn from Smith Alley. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a clicker? Is that up there? Oh, here it is. Thank you. Before I start, I just want to say that I'm beyond grateful for Colin and for everything that he did for me. I know that I wouldn't be where I am today without him. I think about him every day, and I love him. Like was mentioned, my name is Smith Alley. I'm 17 years old, and I'm a junior in high school. Over the past 2 years, I have been on an incredible journey sharing my story. I've been able to help friends, speak to church groups, talk to youth all around the country, and start a nonprofit organization. At 9 years old, I was exposed to pornography. I had a small Android tablet that I had gotten for Christmas, and I clicked on a website that wasn't what it appeared to be. I turned off the device, just like my parents had taught me, but I was still ashamed of what I had seen, and I didn't tell them about the experience. At age 10, I started to use porn normally. It was a small fix to everything that I was feeling and dealing with. And then by the time I was 14, I was viewing pornography 5 to 6 times a day and dealing with depression and anxiety caused by my terrible relationship with social media. I was so good at putting masks on. I tried to show everybody that I was okay when inside I felt like a fraud in my own skin. I was never going to let anybody see that. How far can you go down the wrong path before you can't get back on the right one? Curiosity from pornography led me into a short-term relationship with a girl that ended with false accusations against me. At age 14, I sat in a courtroom in front of a judge, wondering where my life had gone wrong. But I was determined to get back onto the right path. So after joining a recovery program, talking about mental health with my therapist, sorting out legal issues, and taking what felt like a million steps to recovery, I've been able to speak in several different states to tens of thousands of people, start a company helping parents with their tech needs, and a nonprofit inspiring kids to live a life beyond their screen and battle issues like pornography, depression, anxiety, eating disorders, and many others that plague my generation. Now, I want you to know I was raised in a good religious household. My wonderful parents talked to us kids about pornography. We had the restrictions, we had the filters. I'm a normal kid, a lot like your kids, but I still found myself in this place. Now, I wish I could stand up here and tell you that I'm the only one who's ever dealt with pornography, depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, suicidal thoughts, but I'm not, and you know that. Teen depression is up over 60% in the last 10 years. The pornography industry is one of the most profitable industries in the world. 35% of the internet's downloads at all time are pornographic. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry that everyone is scared to talk about. Porn is the world's biggest secret. Our generation is going to die in a digital chaos that we can't calm because we don't have the self-control. So what are we going to do? Because every morning I wake up with news of a kid who has taken their life because the virtual likes and friends weren't enough to calm real-world blues. So what are we going to do? Because too many times I've seen my friends sink far into the reaches of pornography because they didn't feel worthy of the love that they deserve. So what are we going to do because we are starving ourselves, abusing ourselves to build the body we feel we need to be accepted? What are we going to do? Because the apps that we carry on our phone are having serious effects on our mental health, social structures, sex trafficking, and child pedophilia. These apps on our phones, we are literally killing our generation. Can you wrap your head around that? What are we going to do? Because our generation, a generation with more potential than any before us, a greater potential to love and connect, is becoming one of toxic perfectionism. Are we willing to come together, to commit to ourselves, to each other, stand up and make a change, bring tough conversations into the light, and love each other? Because quite honestly, I'm done with hearing news of kids who just couldn't stand this terrible life anymore. People who were never shown that they are loved. I'm done with letting the devices in our pocket be our main source of entertainment, connection, and love. Are you? Do you know your potential? Do you know your worth? Can you begin to imagine the things that our generation could accomplish? Are you ready to make the change? Because I am. So how do we deal with pornography during and after this global pandemic? How do we handle our need for empathy and connection in a time where connection seems nearly impossible? Here's a few things that I learned from my journey, and I hope you'll be open to a change. The first thing that I learned is that I needed to redefine what success, happiness, and love meant to me. There were so many outside influences that were telling me what success was. Success was a dollar amount. Success was getting good grades, wearing nice clothes. It was being the cool kid. When I redefined that, when I realized that my life would never be based off of how much money or worldly success I would have, when I realized that the only thing that was important to me was helping other people and having love in my life, it drove me to find the love that I couldn't find in pornography. The love that I needed here with my family and my friends. So first, redefine love, success, and happiness. Gabe Deem says it best: there's no amount of porn that will ever love you back. A content and an industry that is based on harm, carnal desire, and selfish behavior will never have the capacity to give you the love that you need. But it's hard, right? Because we're living in a very virtual and disconnected world. So how do we get that love when we can't be with those who love you the most? And in today's age, fake love is so easily accessible. So I had to ask myself, how do we get real love in this time of disconnect? The second lesson that I learned wasn't clear to me until reading an amazing book on love called Handbook to the Heart. Now, it mentions this idea that because the world was divinely created by whatever higher power you believe in, that it has the ability to love. When you manifest your love for your surroundings, when you notice and love the way the leaves rustle in the wind or the way your breath falls out of your lungs, when you notice those things and you love them, the love flows back to you. This love is ever increasing and can love you back. So as your love for this world grows, as your love for mankind grows, its love for you grows as well. So that even when you are away from those that you love, you can love what is around you. So second, manifest your love for your surroundings. This third thing I want to aim towards the younger people here and who are watching, and it's to let your heart break. Now, we're taught our whole lives to be strong and to deal with our problems, to walk it off in a sense. 2 quotes read, "Addiction is grown in solitude and distorting community," and "Depression is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of being strong for too long." Oftentimes, our problems go undealt with and just grow worse inside. So let your heart break. Let your heart break daily, in conversation, over song lyrics, during the pause right before the sunrise, while you're sipping coffee and looking into the eyes of someone talking about something they love. For it's when we break a little, we come alive. It's in the space of feeling we get to expand. And it's here in our vulnerability and openness we step into our greatest selves. Now, anybody 18 under, this is for you especially, but tonight I want all of you to go to someone that you trust, whether it be a sibling, a parent, a friend, or a cousin. I want you to go to them and let your heart break. Talk to them. Tell them how you're feeling. Be vulnerable. And allow them to be vulnerable with you. Now, if you want to do what I call the Smith special, I go into my parents' room at night, crawl into their bed like I'm 6 years old again, and I just let it all out. But no matter how you do it, we need to be more accepting of letting our hearts break. The fourth thing that I learned was to serve. For so long, I had participated in and consumed something that was so selfish. When I took porn out of my life, it left a hole there that I needed to fill with pure love, service. Service is the exact opposite of everything that is portrayed in pornography. Service is loving someone for who they really are. Service is sacrificing yourself for their needs. When I replaced porn with service, it changed me as a person. It taught me lessons that I could have never learned anywhere else. And it's such a simple thing to serve. So do it and watch it change your life. The fourth and final thing that I learned is that I am not alone. This is both a heartbreaking and a comforting statement at the same time. I'm not alone. I don't have to keep my struggles to myself. I can talk about my failures and I can learn from them. I can bring my struggles out into the light, and with the help of others, I can destroy it. On the other hand, everyone that we encounter is struggling, and oftentimes we can't see it. 2 weeks ago, I spoke at a middle school, and here are some of the notes that I received. Thank you for coming to talk to us. I felt depressed and felt like I wanted to kill myself. My uncle passed away last year, and it was from drugs. It was really hard for me and still is. What you guys talked about helped me, and I know I need to fix some things in life, so thank you. Smith, thank you for coming today. I really was inspired by what you said. I personally have been struggling with mental health problems, and I feel like no one understands. But you helped me understand that I am not alone. Thank you. Thank you so much, Smith. I'm going through the same things you're going through. You've given me tons of motivation to change my habits. Thanks a ton. Thanks for sharing your porn addiction. I also defeated my porn addiction that I battled since I was 8. I learned porn always pushes you away. I've been addicted to porn since I was 9 too. It's killed my emotional state, but hearing your story is really eye-opening. Thank you. Smith, I promise to be of service to you and will allow you to be of service to me until both you and I successfully defeat this demon that assails us. I go to Sons of Healman as well. Thank you so much for letting me know that I am not alone. It's a crazy world that we live in. Every day we're seeing struggles that we've never seen before. But love wins. Love will always win. Now don't leave today feeling hopeless or fearful. Leave feeling confident. Live a bold life. Become the person that you've always wanted to become. Help, serve, and love others. Dream a big dream and live life bigger. Thank you.
My name is Jeffrey Ford, and I'm a marriage and family therapist, and I've practiced here in St. George for many years now. I'm also a board member for the Utah Coalition Against Pornography. Our ability to hold these rallies and conferences is possible because of the many contributions by the great people of Utah. In fact, our conference today is happening as a free of charge event because of those contributions. Our ability to continue holding these type of rallies and conferences depends on the financial contributions by people like you. Before the day's over, we hope that you visit our website at utahcoalition.org and make a financial contribution if you're able. Thanks again for your support.
It was a nightmare. I tried to get help everywhere I could. I went to several different therapists. Nobody identified the psychological abuse and the lying and the manipulation that I was experiencing, and I couldn't figure out what was happening. Also, I was a young mother. I had 3 young children under the age of 6. I couldn't get out of the house. I couldn't get childcare, and finding the specific help that I needed from someone who really understood emotional and psychological abuse, as well as sexual coercion, all of the things that I was experiencing was really important, and finding it was almost impossible. Once I did find someone who was able to really help me and understood my situation, I didn't have the money to do it. When I found Betrayal Trauma Recovery, it was everything I needed. It was unlimited support every month. It was inexpensive. I didn't have to leave my home. Betrayal Trauma Recovery Group saved my life.
Thank you so much, Smith. That was great. I was trying to picture myself at his age, and we're generations apart, and I don't know that I would have had the courage or the confidence to do what you just did. And you're a teenager. Well done. I'm so impressed, and I so enjoyed. I think we all did the way you talk about love and how it is an incredible part of your life, and yet there are so many people who haven't learned to love themselves and able to learn others. But thank you for the words about service. You and I agreed on that. As he was talking about service, I thought, that's what I believe in, that's what I talk about, so that we do have some things in common. Thank you very much, Smith. It's now my pleasure to introduce a good friend and a fellow board member, Dan Gray. Dan is a licensed clinical social worker, but he's also a certified sexual addiction therapist. And he's got numerous other qualifications, but I'm anxious to hear his TED Talk. So I'm just going to say he is the clinical director of the Lifestyle Network here in Utah and California and elsewhere. And he has co-authored, actually, I don't know if you're familiar with his writings, but he's co-authored and edited the 2 books, Confronting Pornography, A Guide to Prevention and Recovery for Individuals, Loved Ones, and Leaders, and also Discussing Pornography Problems with a Spouse, Confronting and Disclosing Secret Behaviors. And These are very great books. They're easy to read, and you can read a piece at a time and then contemplate on it. But he's quite the writer. He's quite the speaker. We've heard from him a number of times and in our conferences, and we have received excellent evaluations. So I know he won't let us down today. Please join me in welcoming Dan Gray.
Thank you, Pamela, for the very kind and generous introduction. And I too have tried to picture myself when I was Smith's age. Smith, I had hair like you at your age. It's not to scare you by any means, but I didn't have the courage and the power of conviction like Smith has when I was his age. And boy, you've got a lot of good to be doing. You're doing great work right now. Thank you. And it's so good to be here with all of you here that are in this audience and also that are online with us. It's great to be out and amongst people. I've missed it. This has been a tough year for all of us. We've all been disrupted in some way from the isolation and the disconnection that this pandemic has created for us. And it's been a painful time for many of us. And this pain actually is a normal thing. And why is it? It's because we are born with a desire and need to connect. It's an inborn need. We know from the science that children, infants who are born that do not have a connection, don't have that physical and emotional bondedness with an adult, have a higher rate of mortality. It's because we all need that, we crave it. It's something that is wired within our DNA. We are genetically predisposed to connect. We want to connect on a physical level, on an emotional level, and on a spiritual level. And it's innate within all of us. We seek it, we crave it, we want it. I had a great experience with my grandchildren just a little while ago. We've had to be very protective in our home because of our disabled daughter. If she got COVID, she would really be in trouble. And so we had a long separation from my grandchildren. And when we first connected and we were able to have hugs even, just to feel my granddaughter, my grandson just grab me and hold me and not want to let go. Just that innate need was there that I felt so deeply from them. So I want all of you to just think for a moment about the most joyous time in your life, maybe several. What were you doing? Who were you with? What elements were there? More than likely, it is with someone, that memory is with someone that you knew, that you loved. Friends, family, where you were connecting, you were talking, you were touching, you were laughing. You're feeling that sense of belonging, that acceptance, that love together. That's what those good memories are made of, is when we are connecting with others. Those times when we feel the bondedness with others around us, the joy of celebration. When we celebrate a win or a goal or anything good in our life, what do we want to do? We want to share it with somebody, don't we? We want to tell them. We want to touch them. We want to hug them. We want to high-five them. Conversely, think of the most painful times in your life. What were those times that were the most difficult for you? When did you have the most pain, the most trauma? More than likely, it was a time when you felt rejected, when there was some form of loss in your life, some form of grief that you were experiencing because of the loss of someone that you loved. Or people that turned on you, that you felt rejected from. That deep, deep pain that comes from the death of a loved one or being in the midst of a divorce, whether it's someone divorcing you or you're the child of divorce, or you're the grandparent of a child who's being divorced. It's a painful, painful experience, and it has to do with relationships. In the Judeo-Christian beliefs, God created man and all things. And what was the very first thing that he said after he created Adam? It is not good for the man to be alone. It's not good for any of us to be alone. The God of all creation knew the impact of loneliness, how loneliness tears our heart apart, how loneliness hurts us. The science now is very, very distinct. We know now that loneliness is a toxic emotion that is responsible for much depression, anxiety, and addictions. It's also responsible for early onset of disease, such as heart disease, Alzheimer's, and other illnesses. Long, prolonged exposure to loneliness is a killer. But there's an interesting twist to it. That loneliness, they found and believe, is also a gift for us to feel. Much akin to hunger. What does hunger tell us? It tells us that we need to what? Eat. What does thirst tell us? Thirst tells us we need to drink in order to survive. Those emotions of loneliness tell us that we need to connect. It's a warning sign. It's a buzzer that goes on inside of us. And we need to listen very closely to it. If we start to feel it, we need to reach out. We need to connect. Addiction is now being defined as an attachment disorder. Attachment issues that we know therapeutically from someone who maybe was abused when they were young or had a lot of rejection in their life, somehow felt neglected, or a lot of loneliness can also lead to then addictive behaviors. And the trauma that comes from our shame. This statement is from a client of mine. He said, as he came in and was looking for help for his drug, alcohol, and pornography addiction and other problems that he had with social media and gaming, he said, the devastation of my choices is that they have disconnected me from my true identity, from the people I love, and from my God. That sense of disconnection. And his healing was about his recovery to those identities of himself, that connection with other people and with his God. He had allowed himself to rely on the counterfeit connections of drugs, alcohol, sexual compulsions, gaming, and social media. We've talked about this. This became his substitute of his community, the substitute of his tribe, of his people. He pulled away, and because of his shame, he didn't want to let people to know who he truly was, and so he pulled away. And we see this today, everywhere. Disconnection, 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 disconnection. It's everywhere. And so what do we need to do about it? What can we do personally? Those of us that have a sense of a spiritual connection with our Maker. It's important to know that people throughout ages in religious communities for eons have focused on the oneness, the power and the importance of oneness and connection. Buddhist oneness is not a goal. It is the reality of life. We are all one. Enlightenment is turning to others and finding unity and oneness with the universe. In Hindu belief, behind the diversity of existence, all beings are unified in that one self. And there is connected spiritual oneness in all existence. The oneness unifies all beings. There is divine in every being. Jesus Christ himself surrounded himself with people. He connected. He hung out with a lot of people. He invited people to come to him. He was with those that he loved and taught his messages by telling stories of connectedness. Emmanuel, that he was known by in the Hebrew translation, is God is with us. There's that message of connectedness to the divine. And he left us with these messages. I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. Believe me that I am in the Father, and the Father in me. I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you. At that day ye shall know that I am in my Father, and ye in me, and I in you. Words of connection. And what is the opposite message we get from the darker side? We call it Satan, the adversary, the evil one. The message is, as we've heard today, is that of shame. That message to have us separate, disconnect from God. In that scene in the Garden of Eden, in this Judeo-Christian perspective, it is that voice that says to Adam and Eve, you have sinned, you are unworthy of God's love, pull away, disconnect from God, who is calling you to talk to you. And what did they do? Yes, they did. They hid amongst the trees of the garden. But who called them out of hiding? It was their Father. It was their Creator. Come to me. Let's talk. Where are you? I know what you've done. You don't need to hide. Come out of hiding. Connect with me. Because I want for you to become whole and return to my presence. There's always that message of relationship. I want you back into my presence. So let's talk. Let's connect. It is God's desire for us to be connected. In all of the work that we see with the 12 steps in AA and in the White Book for Sexual Addiction, there's that same message of surrendering to our higher power. That message of connecting through prayer, through meditation, mindfulness, opening ourselves to others, creating a community that is not counterfeit, but is real. These are what I call the 6 pillars of connection. And these are things that I have found myself to be essential on my daily routine. As I wake up in the morning, I know that my natural tendency personally is to kind of disconnect. It's to be alone. I can be a very individual person, just be in my own place and feel like I can just kind of handle everything. I need to reach out, as we all do. These are also evidence-based. You can find the research. We don't have time to go through that today, but there's research that backs up every one of these principles. Gratitude and thanksgiving. Talk and touch. Mindfulness, meditation and prayer. Commune with nature. Music, movies, and stories. And as we've heard today, service. Gratitude and thanksgiving. I would recommend this book to everyone. Janice Kaplan has captured the essence of what we're needing to do in our lives, in our society, to reconnect with the importance of gratitude. This message has been given to us again throughout the ages. Allah talked about it. Buddha talked about it. In current times, the Dalai Lama has talked about it. Russell M. Nelson from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has talked about it. It's talked about constantly from religious and church leaders, the importance, the power of gratitude. And gratitude connects us with others. When we express our thanks to another person, we receive back this sense of bondedness with them. They feel it, they return it. When we express our gratitude to our God, we have then a reinforcement of that connection and that relationship with the divine. Touch and talk. Connect with those next to you. Now that we're able to touch a bit more, touch as much as you can. hold those hands, put your arm around each other, give those hugs, kiss when it's appropriate. Be close. Make those bonded, touched moments real. Feel that acceptance and love of others. It impacts the very chemistry of our brain when we touch. Oxytocin, that wonderful bonding hormone, is accentuated and secreted in our bodies when we touch, when we share with one another. Mindfulness, meditation, and prayer. There's so much now that we understand about the power of mindful living. Meditate. Think on the things that you're needing to connect with. Be mindful of those around you. Listen to their heart. Listen to what they're saying to you, through what they're saying and what they're looking like. Be aware, and mindfulness helps you to be aware of others, and then express gratitude for the expression that they've given to you. Get into nature. It's been proven that connecting with nature connects us with the divine. God created all things. The beauties of nature are manifestations of God's love for us. And for us to experience those creations, be grateful for them when we're in those places. Be with other people in nature. Connect with others through these divine resources that we have all around us. Be in a constant state of thanksgiving. Gratitude is one thing, to feel gratitude, but thanksgiving is the expression of it, expressing it, sharing it. Oh, I'm going to go back. Okay. We don't have time to listen to the music, but music, stories, powerful ways of connecting. Rainbows, sunrises, sunsets. Listen to the stories and the messages and the music that connect us to those things. In your journey for connection, find the joy. Take the time to settle, feel it, and experience it with each other. And we'll all be better for it. Thank you very much.
This message is for you moms. Just want to reassure you, there are many young men who are anxiously engaged in a good cause. There are many young men who have intense and focused daily habits that strengthen their character, their behavior, their identity, and their spirits. And there are many of these young men who once were pornography addicts. Many of these men who have become some of the most noble and great ones of the final generation once had sexual self-mastery problems when they were younger. The training is available so that they can make this transition and become the young man you've always hoped they would become in the Sons of Helaman program.
I'm Dr. Jill Manning, and I've had the good fortune of being associated with UCAP for 17 years. It's hard to believe. But over that time, I've witnessed remarkable growth within the coalition and also because of the coalition. Future growth, however, depends on the support from individuals such as you and I. Even small donations make a big difference, and I know we hear that all the time, but it really is true. Will you join me today in making a donation if you are able? We greatly appreciate your help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dan. I think many of us have been thinking about the importance of connectedness and disconnected, and how we felt disconnected this past year. It's a very timely topic, so thank you, and those beautiful slides at the end. I like to transpose myself into those places, and it brings peacefulness. I'm grateful to have that ability to be able to do that. We're 4.5 minutes running late, and my job is to keep us on time. So that's not too bad. I appreciate everybody keeping to the time. And it's my pleasure now to introduce Dr. Christy Kane. She's out of the country traveling right now, but we will be able to see her on the screen. She's an expert in mental health who delivers great presentations that challenge her audiences to contemplate human connection. We're continuing the same theme here. She encourages everybody to come together and gain insight into their mental health as to where they are at the moment, where they've been, and where they want to go. And we don't often take time to do that ourselves. And it's hard if we haven't done it ourselves to help other people do it. But she's going to show us how. She has very practical strategies. She's got a PhD in psychology, and she has done an enormous number of presentations in the country and throughout the world as well. I don't know that I mentioned that Christy is a bibliophile. And why does that matter? Well, it means she's curious, time-honored, and a little brainy. Well, actually, a lot brainy. She's also considers herself an advocate for hugs. She actually recommends 8 hugs a day and lasting for 8 seconds. Been a little hard to do. But please, you've got a photo there. Please enjoy the video.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christy Kane. I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor, and I'm excited to spend a few minutes talking with you. I've decided that I would do this presentation more from the perspective of a mental health counselor, as though you were a client sitting in my office. So this is not going to be a formal presentation with a PowerPoint, but I'm hoping this will be one of those eye-to-eye, knee-to-knee conversations so that we can make good impact in the lives of those who we care about. The topic that I've been given to discuss today is teaching children healthy sexuality. Now, I know you're attending a conference on helping deal with the plague of pornography and what you can do to help keep those that you love safe. Well, I'm going to come at this topic from a different angle by talking about sexuality. It is estimated today that 98% of our young people have access to a smartphone. You may not know this, but in COVID, the rates of viewing on the smartphone more than doubled. The other issue that you may not be aware of is the mental health request rate for services for young people between the ages of 3 and 23 in COVID went up by 98%. And in some areas, there was a 300% increase for certain issues such as self-harming. We have just completed a pandemic with worldwide focus, but we've been in another pandemic for a long time, and that is the pervasiveness in pornography in altering and changing how our children and our young people and our young adults, and even adults for that matter, engage in healthy sexuality. Not so long ago, CNN did a very interesting study. They interviewed a bunch of freshmen, college young men on campuses across the United States. And they asked them, why do you view pornography? Their number one answer was to understand sexuality. They made the comment that it's a taboo topic and not being talked about by their parents or in their communities. And so out of curiosity and to seek information, that's the source that they go to. They also noted that by going to that source, they were very confused. Let me give you an example. One thing they talked about is they're told repeatedly that if a girl says no in the realm of sexual activity, then a young man is supposed to follow that. But yet in viewing pornography, no meant yes. As a matter of fact, no meant become more aggressive. So the young men indicated that even in the viewing of pornography to try to understand sexuality, they were confused. The other information that was gained in that study was the young men also indicated that they felt very emasculated by what they viewed and recognized that they weren't the type of individuals young girls were looking for. Another study on sexuality for our young people indicated that by the time our young people come together to actually meet face to face, they've already shared so much sexual content and talked so much about sexualities that it's just about doing the deed, for lack of a better description. So we've got to begin changing things. For a long time, especially in religious faith and different cultures, we taught morality. But morality, in some aspects, didn't help prepare young people for healthy sexuality. So we need to switch the dialogue, and we need to start at younger and younger ages. Today, the average age for a young person in the United States to have a smartphone is the age of 10. You know, I receive many phone calls. I visit with many people who have tragic stories at finding out that their young people, as young as 5, 6, 7, and 8, have been viewing pornography. And so we have to start talking about the topic of healthy sexuality at younger and younger ages. We can begin by talking about what is considered safe touching and appropriate touching at different ages. We can begin with our young people explaining that sexuality is a wonderful and a beautiful and amazing part of our lives, and something that should be expressed at the right time and in the right place and with the right person. We need to take away and eliminate secrecy. So many times when we shame, when we apply guilt, when we go to secrecy, we create curiosity, and oftentimes curiosity in the wrong way. So other thing we need to do is begin to discuss healthy sexuality. You know, the other issue that's going on in our community is we have an increased constant discussions of gender identity, gender orientation. If we don't have these conversations with our young people, they're going to seek for information from other sources. So we need to talk about the role of a male, the role of a female in healthy sexuality, what that means in a marriage, what that means in preparation for dating, what that means when we are dating. How do we act? How do we treat each other? What's appropriate to share in texting? What's appropriate to share face-to-face? What's appropriate to share at certain levels of relationships? There is so much that we can offer to our children to help protect them and to help them understand, so that they want to wait when it's appropriate, so they want to engage when it's appropriate and not when the world says. Almost all of the material online carries a sexual connotation. Look at TV and television now. Sexuality has become a blatant part of programming. I grew up with Gilligan's Island, and you didn't see the sexuality that our young people see today. Even in cartoons, anime, for example, is a huge cartoon for young people, and yet it's blatantly sexual. If we're going to get ahead of this pandemic of pornography, if we're going to make an indent, if we're going to protect our children, if we're going to give them a chance to be able to experience healthy relationships, it's going to be by talking about healthy sexuality. Now, when I say that, I mean blatantly, bluntly, almost on a daily basis. Parents say, well, can we have the talk and be done? There's no such thing anymore in our society about having the talk. Parents need to engage in open conversations with their children, such as, I'm so glad we waited until we were married. I'm so glad that I know how to respect your mom and understand that she's a beautiful, amazing sexual woman, and this is what it means. And I'm so glad that I get to be with your father and that we have a very healthy sexual relationship. We need to be willing to ask questions. We need to be willing to eliminate shame. If the kids want to understand and know what sexuality is, the source for that information needs to come from parents. It will come in the media. It will come on social media. It will come via pornography if we are not mindful and taking charge of these conversations. It's estimated today that over 73% of our young women are sharing inappropriate, nude-based pictures of themselves via sexting. I'm going to be speaking at the National Resource Officers Conference, and they have indicated that one of the main issues for resource officers in schools is sexting and bullying. Help your young people understand that if they're caught with any type of pictures that are of underage young people that are inappropriate, they can be charged. Help your young people know what to share and what not to share online. It's estimated that over 90% of our young men have received pictures, whether they solicited them or not, in the form of sexting. We need to help our young people understand the importance of protecting their body, their importance of sharing certain conversations only in certain settings. We need to help them understand that they can prepare to have a very healthy sexual relationship at the right time and the right place with the right person. And again, that's going to come from very blunt conversations about sexuality at younger and younger ages. 10, 11, 8, 9-year-olds are being exposed to pornography. Their young minds do not know how to translate what they're seeing. So parents need to be aware and mindful. And if a child comes to you and they tell you that they viewed pornography, don't react, don't get upset, don't get mad. Simply have the conversation. What did you view? What questions do you want to ask? Let's talk about this. Let me explain to you why it's the wrong source to be looking at, how that can impact your mind and change your thoughts. And let's have good, healthy conversations about sexuality. Evidence-based research shows the more parents are willing to talk about tough topics, the more they're willing to remove the secrecy, the more they're willing to be very open and honest about the topic of healthy sexuality, the less likely their children are going to go to other sources to receive answers. The best answers come from parents who help youth understand that healthy sexuality is a beautiful and amazing part of life. And coming to understand your own sexual orientation, your own sexual identity, and preparing for the opportunity when you'll be able to be sexually active with the partner that you have chosen is amazing. So I encourage you, remove the myths, talk about healthy sexuality on a daily basis with your children in ways that has some laughter, some lightness, some seriousness, evidence-based facts, and helps young people feel very, very comfortable with their own sexuality and knowing that they can ask you as a parent any question that they need to ask, that they can come to you, even if kids at school are telling them things. We have to begin to acknowledge and believe that almost every one of our children are going to be exposed to pornography. Every one of our kids are going to be told things that are not factual about healthy sexuality. And we want them to know they can come to us for answers, they can come to us for the truth, and they can come knowing that we'll have an open policy without shame, without guilt, and will help them understand and prepare for a beautiful and wonderful, healthy sexual relationship when the time is right. If we want to help create a big dent in pornography viewing and how pornography is going to impact the lives of our young people, it's if we begin the conversations about healthy sexuality with our kids. Thank you.
These days, our family relies on technology more than ever. My kids use it for school, socializing, and fun. But we worry about their skyrocketing screen time and what else they can see online.
We didn't know how to keep our kids safe on their devices, even at home. Then we found Protect Young Minds Brain Defense, a digital safety curriculum that helps us teach our kids how to use technology in positive ways. For our family, Brain Defense makes sense.
Young men want to have sexual self-mastery. Young men are capable of having sexual self-mastery. The insults in our culture, United States and beyond, that young men have no choice but to be slaves to their sexual urges, etc., is an insult to the young men. We need not use shame to help them sharpen their hearts and their minds. The parts of their brains that are warriors, the parts of their brains that fight for that which is good, can be tapped into in such a way that when they come together and they are trained in correct principles, as would any soldier in any type of boot camp type training, they can learn to do amazing things just as the sons of Helaman did in the times of the Book of Mormon. We invite you to investigate the sons of Helaman.
Our children are facing serious challenges and feeling all the emotions. Most people deal with their emotions by ignoring them or turning to addictions. You are desperate to prevent this pain for your child. What if your kids were confident and knew how to communicate how they feel? How would that strengthen the connection in your family? Emotion Commotion is a fun and easy card game that teaches emotional intelligence. You'll know how you feel and be able to read the body language of your family. You'll connect better and develop empathy. Connect today as you laugh and play Emotion Commotion.
Thank you, Dr. Kane, very much. As I've worked with homeless youth, following Dr. Christy Kane's suggestions, I've tried to use some of her methods for talking with many of these homeless youth. I only went beet red once. They've been very understanding. And some of them I know well, and others I don't know so well, but I have found Dr. Kane's methods and the fact that it's talking about healthy sexual relationships, I think helps tremendously. So I'm very, very grateful to her for all that she's taught me. I'd like to introduce the last of our TED Talk style speakers. Is Tyler Patrick. He's also known as the Wandering Therapist and is the co-founder and clinical director of Love Strong in Logan, Utah. I just did a site visit up there yesterday. It was beautiful, blue sky, a few clouds, and so Tyler, I liked it up there very much. It was very restful. As a marriage and family therapist, Tyler has dedicated his career to mastering and understanding and recovery from shame-based addiction and shift into wholehearted living. He believes that the men and women who embrace and live the principles of recovery do far more than get their lives back. They become the best kinds of husbands and wives and fathers and mothers. He's been married for over 20 years, and according to him, he has an incredible family, which I tend to believe. And he also has some amazing daughters, too. His hobbies away from work include supporting his children's interests, fly fishing, he goes backpacking and kayaking, loves to stay outdoors, and training their dog called River. So Tyler, very grateful to you being here today, and I would invite you up to come and speak and share your wisdom with us.
All right. Thank you. I am so excited to be here with you today. It's interesting to speak to a crowd in person and also know that it's going online. I just wanted to first start by saying that if you're watching this presentation, it's likely that you or somebody you know is being affected by the effects of betrayal trauma in relationships, and the pain that you feel is not unnoticed. I also want you to know that if you leave from anything from what I'm going to say today, is that if you're feeling some of the pain that comes from betrayal, there is hope here. There is hope that you won't even be able to reclaim your life back, but that you can have something far richer and far deeper. So I wanted to talk with you guys today a little bit about what your partner is actually saying when you're trying to unravel communication in recovery in your relationships. And to do this, I want to introduce you to Rob and Rachel. Rob and Rachel met about 8 years ago in college. Rachel is a fiery personality. She's got a lot of passion. She lives by her principles, and she believes in standing strong for what she believes. Rob is a good man. Rob has a lot of passion for wanting to provide for his family, for his wife and his children. He wants to live wholeheartedly. He wants to show up and serve other people. They met in college. They fell in love with each other. They realized they had similar principles and similar values. They got married and they started a family. and everything seemed just fine until about a month ago when Rachel found some communication that Rob had been having with another woman. And she came to find out that he had had a secret pornography addiction from before the time they were married, that he had then gone and let that pornography addiction move into something else, and he'd been having an extramarital affair for the last couple of years. And as you can imagine, this devastated Rachel. It blew her world apart. She didn't know what she could trust anymore. She didn't know what she could believe out of Rob's mouth anymore. She didn't know how to go about trying to get over the pain that she felt. On one hand, she was feeling guilty because she was angry and frustrated, and she didn't know how to overcome those feelings. She didn't know she wanted to stay with him. In a sense, her world had been blown apart, and that's where they entered my office. And they're not uncommon from other couples that I see. This is the common thing that happens, where something will happen and disclosure will happen, and you have two good people, because of secrecy and because of hiding, who have a breach of trust, and they're left trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces. Well, Rachel was in my office last week, and she was going through her feelings with me, and she was saying, Tyler, I feel devastated. I don't think I can think clearly. Every time I'm around him, I get so flooded by emotion that I don't know how to respond to him. And so we sat in my office, and we made up a game plan on how she was going to set some good boundaries with her husband when she went home. And what she was really needing was a little bit of space, a little bit of time away from trying to actually fully jump in and repair the relationship, because she was still trying to get her feet planted emotionally. And so she came up with a game plan that she was going to go home and talk to Rob and say, hey, we're going to take a break for just a minute. I need a chance to take care of myself, to get my thoughts clear. And she went home to talk to Rob. And I was all proud of myself. We'd had a great session. She went home feeling encouraged, and she went home to talk to Rob. And later that night, I got a call from Rob. And the first word out of Rob's mouth was an expletive. And he said, Tyler, what are you teaching my wife? You just taught her how to put up walls and not let her talk to me anymore, and I think we're going to get a divorce because she's going to leave me, right? How did that happen? Rachel went home to Rob saying, hey, I think we need to slow down and take things at a different pace. And Rob heard, you're rude. What are you doing? You're going to ruin our lives. We're not going to stay together anymore. You're going to leave me. Rob was living from a place of abandonment, a fear of abandonment, and Rachel was simply just asking for some time to get her feet underneath her. And in recovery work with relationships and couples, this is too often the case, because we are built, as was said earlier today so beautifully by Dan Gray, we're built for connection. And when we're built for connection, we want to be in a relationship with somebody, we need safety and trust. And when that trust has been broken, it doesn't allow for us to have the right kind of communication, and the wires get crossed. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about how the wires get crossed, and I want to give a couple of tools on how to uncross the wires if you find yourself in this situation. In order to do this, we have to understand that we as human beings, we have more to us than the simple behaviors that we're putting forward right now with someone that we're interacting with. There's much more under the surface that often doesn't get seen or discussed or shown. And because we don't understand what's going on underneath the surface in the other person that we're interacting with, and sometimes even within ourselves, we miss the opportunity to connect to the things that are most important. So today I'm going to outline for you what the cycle looks like for a couple like Rob and Rachel, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to break that cycle. It all starts with core beliefs at the bottom. These are core beliefs that are sometimes present before we ever get into a relationship. It's usually having something to do with my fear of not being connected with. But those things feel vulnerable, and so we don't allow ourselves to show those to other people, and they feed what we call core emotions. And the core emotions of someone like Rob are shame and fear. He's lived his whole life with a secret addiction, feeling like he wasn't enough. And because of that, he couldn't show anybody what he was actually dealing with. And as a result, he hid those things. And because he hid those things and he put on a stoic face, he has to look like nothing's a big deal, and he shows up as apathetic in his relationship, as if he doesn't care, as if nothing matters. And then he's shut down, or he gets defensive, depending on how close people get to his secrets. And when he shuts down or gets defensive, without knowing it, he goes across all the way down into the wounds that his wife already has. Her fears that she's not loved, her feelings of instability. And as he shuts down trying to protect himself, he's actually inflicting the wound that she's already got inside of her. And because she feels vulnerable and she doesn't know how to cope with those feelings, it fuels her core emotions, which are to be fearful and to feel devalued, because he's not paying attention to her now. Those things are too hard to speak when there's not trust in a relationship. And as a result, it converts to anger, which is the secondary emotion that she feels, because that's the safety emotion, right? We're allowed to be angry in our world, especially when somebody's mistreated us. And then that anger fuels her behavior back towards Rob. And her behavior back might be a criticism, or in this case, it was actually a really well thought out boundary, but it felt like a criticism to Rob because of what his core beliefs already are. This is the common pattern that couples fall into when they're trying to climb out of the hole after betrayal. This isn't just the story of Rob and Rachel. This is the story of hundreds of clients that I've worked with over the years. This is actually the story of me and my wife. 15 years ago, I was Rob. I was hiding. And I couldn't bring myself to share with the person that meant the most to me the things that I struggle with the most. And it took my wife finding something out that devastated her world. She thought she had married a man of integrity. And all of a sudden there was secrecy and hiding and isolation. And as a result, my wife went into all of those places that we just talked about. She felt unloved. She felt devalued. She didn't know how to protect herself. And as a result, she did what she could to protect herself, and she set boundaries. And I remember that as we started to climb out of the hole, she came to me and she said, "We're going to try to figure this out." And I said, "I want to figure it out." And we were two good people trying to figure out how to get through something because I had a problem that I hadn't been willing to talk about. And over the course of the next couple of years, we ran through this cycle over and over and over again. And every time my wife would bring me something that she was hurting with, I would think that I wasn't enough. And I would disappear and I would shy away. And every time I'd shy away, she'd feel like she was being abandoned and that she wasn't loved. And then she'd get frustrated and she'd come to me with something else trying to get me to pay attention. There's a better way. And I was taught this way by my wife. And I want to share it with you, because I've seen it happen in my life, my relationship, and in the life and relationships of many of the clients that I work with. Instead of focusing on the behaviors that we give to each other and having to protect ourselves as a result of the behavior of my partner, I have to learn how to tap into and understand the core beliefs and the core emotions that my partner is feeling. So here's the choice we have, is to stay in the cycle or we can break it. If you find yourself in this cycle, you will recognize the feelings you have when you're down at the bottom. When you recognize those feelings, the first choice is compassion. And compassion first for yourself. The feelings that you're having, the pain that you're feeling, the doubts that you have are valid. Anybody in your shoes would feel the same way. Practice compassion for yourself first, and then compassion for the other. My wife is hurting. I can set aside my desire to run away and hide, and I can start to pay attention to the fact that it's my wife's pain that's actually driving this. Once I choose compassion, I can step into the truth of who I am. I can connect to my core values as a person. My wife did this for me. We were 2 or 3 years into the process. She was struggling. She had a heart of hatred and a heart of frustration. I had done something stupid in the course of our work. I had probably hidden something from her that was pretty trivial. I might have hidden the fact that I had spent some money out of our budget that I didn't tell her about. But it felt the same as the old betrayal to her. And so she took a drive and she left. And of course, when she left, I felt like a failure, and I was sitting at home feeling like a failure, thinking that I was a terrible person, living in shame. And while she was driving in her car, trying to sort through her own feelings, she put on a talk. And the talk happened to reference the story of the Good Samaritan. And as she was driving in her car with this heart full of anger, she heard that story of the Good Samaritan, and something clicked inside of her, and she said, Tyler is the wounded one on the side of the road. He doesn't know what he's doing. And she drove home, and she walked in the door, and she came up to me, and she put her arms on my face. And she looked me straight in the eye. And she said, what you're doing is not okay. And it has to change, but I want you to know that I see you. And I love you. And I believe you're capable of change. She instantly shattered the pattern. It only takes one to shatter the pattern. It doesn't matter who it is. In this case, it was my wife. She was the courageous one. And what she did is she set in motion a new pattern where we could start to see each other. I was allowed to see her pain now. She could see mine, and we could talk at the core emotional level of what we were going through. We could become supportive to one another. So I give you guys this challenge if you're listening to this. If you're struggling with these things yourself, think of the relationship that you're in right now that you're struggling with. And see if it's possible that this might not be true for you. Could a greater miracle take place than for us to look through each other's eyes for an instant? Can you pause? Can you offer yourself some compassion? Can you offer that other person some compassion and look at their life through their eyes and then speak it? I believe that if we're capable of doing these things, we're capable of healing. We're capable of climbing out of the hole. I can tell you right now that my wife and I's relationship has never been better, even when I thought it was good before it all happened. And I see that happen with many of my clients. The truth is there is hope if we can find empathy and understanding for one another. Thank you.
My name is Dan Gray. I am a therapist here in Salt Lake, and I'm co-founder of the LifeStar program, a program which is dedicated to helping individuals, couples, and families deal with the negative impact of pornography in their lives. UCAP has been dedicated to the same cause for many, many years. I've had the privilege of being a member of the UCAP board. I'm deeply supportive of its cause as I've watched so many individuals and families receive help and assistance over these many years. UCAP is dependent on the donations of those that are willing to help and assist as it battles these issues in our society and our community. And I would ask those of you that are able to please donate today. Any small or large contribution is very much appreciated. Thank you very much.
you so much, Tyler. Some very practical thoughts for us to dwell on. Really appreciate that. To close out our conference, we're excited to hear from Dave Schramm. He's known as Dr. Dave across the campus of Utah State University, and he's an associate professor. I just elevated you. He's an associate professor of family and life extension at the, as I said, USU, in the Department of Human Development and Family Services. After graduating with his PhD from Auburn University, he works as a professor at University of Missouri for 9 years. And he was appointed in 2016 by Governor Herbert to serve on Utah's Commission on Marriage. Some of you may not know our former First Lady, Jeanette Herbert. That was her initiative while she was, while her husband was the governor, and to hold these conferences on marriage. And I'd forgotten that you were on that commission. That was great. Let's see. He appears on television on Fox 13. It's on about 1 o'clock, I think. It's called The Place, and he shares tips and videos on social media to help individuals and parents and couples thrive in their life journey. From British Columbia to Beijing, China, and from St. Louis to San Diego, he's given over 500 presentations and workshops to a variety of audiences, including the United Nations, which is very impressive, as well as a variety of TED Talks in Florida. He's married to his high school sweetheart, Jamie, and they have 4 children. Listen to this. He loves peanut M&Ms. Now, who doesn't love him now that you know that about him? And the Schramm's family live in North Logan, Utah, that I was enjoying yesterday. So please welcome Dave, Dr. Dave.
Well, I'm super excited. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to share some things today that will hopefully help you in your family relationships, your couple relationships. It's been a wild and wacky year, hasn't it? It really has, with so many emotions, ups and downs. The kids come home from school, and I come home now from work, and it's just trying to juggle so much. But they come home in March and have this 5-month summer break, and it was what do we do? What do we do with these kids? So we have 4 teenagers right now, and so I don't know about you what your feeling was when they went back to school, but this is how I felt when they went back to school. I was super excited, and then of course they were excited. I had to throw the mask on them because they're just thrilled. Aren't we all thrilled with these masks? But really, family time took on a whole new meaning, didn't it? During this time, it was a lot of family time, a lot of interactions, and for some that was wonderful, and others that was very stressful. I remember going out to get the mail several times a day for hours at a time or days at a time, and then coming back, and it was a lot of us time when we get on each other's nerves, but it was a lot of, for some families, it was wonderful to have more family time, some more interactions. So let me begin by asking you these 2 questions. I've asked these same 2 questions to over 1,300 people. It's the shortest study of my career in academia. And it was simply this. The first one, to me, life is all about, and fill in the blank. Honestly, take a second and put something in there. 1 or 2 words. What would you put? And the second question, similar, if I died tomorrow, what I'd miss the very most would be, and fill in the blank. What would it be? Now, as I analyze these answers, some of these first ones, they weren't too surprising. Family, children, relationships, the majority, 36%. 18% said happiness, helping and serving others, the journey, the experiences, God, religion, improving your self-change. But what was perhaps most surprising to me was what was not there. What's missing from that list? Work and money. In fact, very few said anything related to work or money. Now, that's not to say that work isn't important. I love my job. I love interacting with students and presenting on these types of topics. But that's not what life is all about for most people. It's about relationships. Now, the second question, if I died tomorrow, what I'd miss the very most would be, now, as I learned as a professor, you have to look at the wording of this question. Does anyone see anything weird with that wording of that question? So I got some smart Alex who said things like, I'd be dead and breathing, and that's what I would miss the very most. Another one said, I'd be dead. You know, you can't miss anything when you're dead, dude. Some said, I thought interesting, the thing they'd miss the most, Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is what they would miss the most. Another one said, one person actually said, my cows. That's what I would miss the most. But again, overall, what was the theme? It was family. It was relationships. It was children. It's my marriage. That's what I would miss the very most. And others said things like life, laughter, experiences. So thinking about relationships and couple relationships and connections, which we've heard about today. Here's a study, a BYU professor, that looked at factors that predicted how long and how well we live in this life. What are some factors? It was a meta-analysis, so it's a study of studies that showed. Now, going from left to right, clean air, sometimes we would argue that in Cache Valley, right, Tyler, with some of the inversion and stuff that comes in, but not a strong predictor of how long and how well. Hypertension treatment, interesting. Being lean versus overweight, exercise, and other studies have actually shown that it's further down the line. Cardiac rehab, flu vaccine, right? What about this one? Quitting drinking and quitting smoking. So what are the two? What are the two strongest predictors of how long we're going to live? Close relationships, as we've talked about today. These relationships. So what's number one? The number one predictor of staying alive today is quitting Fortnite. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. You could take a picture for your kids and then you'd be like, hey, look, yeah, right. Son, you've got to quit. It's relationships. It's social interactions. So how is that different? Close relationships is who you're quarantined with. The close relationships, who we're quarantined with. Social interaction is everyone else that we see at work and at school and at church and all the other people that we couldn't see during quarantine. But look what they do to our bodies, to our health. It's huge. So taking a look at relationships, and it was mentioned earlier, we're all born with some needs, at least 3 fundamental human needs. The first that we're born with is safety. Now this is physical as well as emotional safety. This is food, clothing, shelter, peanut M&Ms, right? That's one of those fundamental needs that we all have. And when those needs are met, and I feel emotionally safe, the emotion is, I feel at peace. Yes, I feel like there's not this fear. The second need that we all have is satisfaction. This is a bowl of ice cream. This is a pizza. This is going out and going bowling with friends. This is doing fun, enjoyable things. But it's also contributing to a higher purpose and meaning. It's doing service. It's volunteering. It's doing something that brings us this cause, your why. All of us have this why. And that's what brings us this feeling of contentment. Now, a third need that we all have, talked about earlier today, is the need for connection. We all have that. We're born with this longing for belonging, this craving for connection with other people. And that is formed through all kinds of things, through gratitude, through compassion, through kindness and empathy and love and support. And the feeling there is the feeling of love. Now, the pandemic comes along, and it's very interesting. Studying these 3 needs, the pandemic is one of the few things historically that has ever wiped out all 3 needs at the same time, within a matter of a few days. Immediately, our safety is threatened. That's probably one of the most obvious, right? We're wearing masks, and we're social isolating. Satisfaction, I can no longer go out, and I can't go bowling, I can't go to the movies, I can't do anything outside that's fun anymore. And then connection. Social distancing, I can't stand that word. Physical distancing, we need social connection. But we couldn't get out our kids. That was one of the hardest things for us as our teenagers and cooped up, and they needed that social connection. You can't go to church, you can't go to the grocery, you can't do anything to really see people, and even when you do see them, you can't see their mouths, you can't see their smiles. And so with this social connection, this importance, what did we turn to? We turned to Netflix. During this time of the pandemic, Netflix went through the roof. The subscribers and Facebook and YouTube, all these views increased. We see a huge increase in gaming, in the Fortnite. All of this goes up because where they turn to meet their needs for safety, satisfaction, connection, they're going online. The one thing that they can have access to is their screens. So social media for adults, the same thing. That goes up. TikTok, it was the highest grossing app in the second quarter of 2020. And kids, my girls are teaching me all these things, and we're doing all these dances and stuff. This TikTok, it was huge. What else are they supposed to do? And what else increased? Sales of toilet paper went through the roof instead of down the toilet. Okay, that was one of my dad jokes. Increase, and it means all three needs, right? Safety, satisfaction, connection. It's toilet paper. So where else did they turn? They turned to pornography. Worldwide, now this is right from Pornhub. Worldwide traffic to Pornhub continues to be much higher than it was before the coronavirus pandemic spread worldwide. This is a quote right from their website. The peak increase of 24.5% happened on March 25th after we offered free Pornhub Premium to encourage people to stay indoors and distance themselves socially. What? They're courageously helping everyone social distance. We'll give you free premium. We're just doing our part to help What? Does that rub anyone else the wrong way when you see that? And they put that on there. I flipped a lid. United States, it wasn't much different. You see this. Oh, let's do this. It's free. What else? How do I meet those needs? Safety, satisfaction, temporarily satisfaction, and false connection. And it's all right there. And they're turning to this. And you see this traffic increase compared to an average day. So as I looked at the website, the Utah Coalition Against Pornography, I applaud this uphill battle that continues to be had. And now there are two ways to approach problems. There's a problem to go against something, and then I looked on the website, the About Us, and I was impressed because it says we're empowering individuals, strengthening families, and uniting organizations in the fight against pornography through education and collaboration. So the emphasis there, strengthening families and connection. So not only is it enough to decrease something, but we have to increase something as well, strengthening families. Think about health and diet, for example. It's not enough just to decrease the sugary and the fats and to decrease those to lose weight. In addition to decreasing negative, we increase exercise, positive, healthy foods, enough sleep. And so with any kind of a problem, we have to have at least two approaches: decrease the negative, increase the positive. And my work as a family scholar, family scientist at USU, and as an extension specialist, is to help increase the positivity. And while others and other organizations are going to fight against something, my role is to increase connection and real relationships. And what does a healthy parent-child relationship look like? A healthy marriage relationship look like? So that's my approach today, is to share some things from the research that shows how to increase connection, empathy, and strengthening families. So the average 24 workday, this is, and again, this is going to fluctuate for everybody, but let's break this down a little bit. On average, the average American gets about 7.5 to 8 hours, again, average American, 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep. So that's already taken care of. What about work and the commute? It's about 8.5 to 9 hours. So now there's a big chunk that's gone. What's next in our day? Survival. Okay, this is not going to a 3-hour dance recital of your daughters or something. Sometimes that counts as survival, we think, but that's another category. Survival is more things like going out and grocery shopping. It's cooking, it's cleaning, it's your teenager's hour shower, it's those types of things, it's lawn care, those types of survival things. So now we have, what's this next category? We have what's called personal time. Now, as you look at this, those people who are sick or they're nearing the end of their lives, when they look back at their greatest memories, the most wonderful things in their life, what are they looking back at? It's not how much time they slept or how much time that they worked. It's this sacred space, this personal time, and how is it being used? Now, this is the family time. This is going out. This is going to the ball games. This is recreation time. Reading. Reading is actually down to 10 minutes. Under 10 minutes between those ages 15 to 44 is under 10 minutes a day now. So that's significantly decreased. Now let's take a look at this and see what screens have done historically of that personal time. Let's take a look. At 2007, what was launched? The iPhone. iPhone was launched, and Netflix streaming happened to be those two things. So of that personal time, this is how much in 2007 is taken up by screens. 8 years later, 2015, it's this much time is taken up by screens, any kind of screens. So TV screens and tablets and cell phones. In 2017, this much time is taken up by screens. Now you see that little yellow sliver down at the end? That's where the magic happens. And it's getting thinner and thinner and thinner. That slice of personal, real connection time in families, in couple relationships, and the things that we do with our time, it is taking up by screens. Something's got to change. Now, it's a colleague of mine, Brandon McDaniel, he coined the term technoference. This is when technology interferes with human connections, real relationships. And it happens all of the time. Whether it's a buzz in our pocket, we're putting our kids to bed and we feel that, our brain will immediately go to that. It's this, right? This connection of anything, this buzz, this goes off, my watch goes off, and I've got to take a look at this. Now, a little soapbox moment here. We've got to do better in two places. And one of those is eating out, whether it's at home at the kitchen table, it's the restaurant. So I take the SRAM fan, we get in the SRAM van, the SRAM fam gets in the SRAM van, and we head to San Diego, and I go and I'm presenting, great presentation, I take them out to dinner, we sit down, we're eating dinner, and I look over and I see a father-son, kind of a little, father-son outing, having dinner, I think, oh, isn't that great? And then dessert comes, and this child starts to eat his dessert, and dad gets on his phone. And for the next 10 minutes straight, not one word is said. Not one word is said. So I snap a picture of this, and I think, oh, it's heartbreaking to me. And then they get up and leave, and now notice it's the exact same table, because you see the people in the back. Another couple comes, and they sit down, and immediately, what do? They're on their phones. This is the time away from everything, and you have this sacred time together. And it's something else or someone else is more important than the person across from me is. And now at this point, my kids are telling me, Dad, you're doing the same thing. You're taking pictures of these kids. You're not even staring at us. Because I'm like, kids, look at this. If you're ever on a date and your date takes out their cell phone, you just call me and I'll come and take them. Now we another trip. My wife and I, we fly to Hawaii. Someone has to present in Hawaii, right? So I made the sacrifice. We go to Hawaii. We present. We go to Duke's. Have you been to Duke's restaurant? Amazing place. We go there, and immediately, I look over, just the next table over, and I see this happening. I look right behind me at another table. We're in Hawaii at Duke's restaurant. Another one, and he's got his hand on one. And last night, my wife and I, we stay here. We go out to eat. What do we see? The table next to us. Woman's on her phone. The husband's just going through. Another one. A woman, her son, he's maybe 4 or 5 years old, and then dad is across in this booth, and he's on his phone. He has his phone in his left hand the whole meal, and he's eating, looking, and at one point he puts it down so she can't see as much, and he's doing this and eating, no talking. It's breaking my heart. So we have to do what I call K-toot and K2. We've got to kick technology out of beds, and we've got to kick technology off of tables, because that is our last holdout right there. Is tables and beds. That is sacred spaces where real connection takes place. In beds, whether it's our own beds, our beds of our kids, we've got to get it off of there. We've got to get it out of there. Tables, no, we have to take that away. Because our space is shrinking, and now we're taking it even into the bathroom. When's the last time you went into the bathroom without your phone? Guilty. You're all guilty as charged, right? We can't get away from it. All right, so let me share 5 keys for connection. 5 keys for creating better connection in our families, in our parent-child, in our couple relationships. First one is the escape key, right? More memories and good times. I just got done talking about how much our time and we don't have time, we're not doing anything. We need to do more things together, whether it's couple getaways, it's family interactions, it's hikes, it's walks, it's doing things where we don't have the little devices in our hands, where we can go out and make real memories, lasting memories, because looking back, this is what is most important to us, are these connections and these moments. The second one, one-on-one time. Huge fan of one-on-one time. Whether it's daddy-daughter Dairy Queen dates or just dressing up. Halloween was one of our favorite holidays. Just dressing up and doing fun, engaging things that will create memories with our kids. Do that. Try that. One-on-one. Whether it's father, daughter, son, do it one-on-one. You can do it two-on-one as well, but establish that relationship, that connection, one-on-one with your kids. It's critical. Second key is the find key on the keyboard, and that is find more to be grateful for. We talked about it earlier, gratitude, the power of gratitude. I call it invisible work. Invisible work. Look for those things that you hardly notice until they're not done. What am I talking about? It's the laundry, it's the cooking, it's the grocery shopping, it's the cleaning, those things that we tend not to notice until they're not done. And then we're like, oh, hey, where's my pair of socks? Or I need my uniform. Kids, look to be grateful for your parents for those things that you don't notice until they're not done. The gratitude is, as mentioned, one of the most powerful things. It's more powerful than any kind of a substance that could make you feel good. The studies have continued to show it helps everything from fewer suicidal thoughts to fewer aches and pains to feeling of support, optimism. It actually makes you more attractive, people who are grateful for. One of my favorite apps is the 5-Minute Journal. The 5-Minute Journal allows you to start your day with 3 things that you're grateful for, writing those things down. And they have to be specific and they have to be different every day. You can't just be, oh, I'm grateful for my wife, I'm grateful for my dog, and for water, and be done, because that does nothing. Actually, I've done a study, and if it's not specific, it does nothing for you. You don't even have to put it in a journal. They did a study with napkins, and if you write it on a napkin of what you're grateful for, it does the same thing. You get the same positive benefit because it's the process of actually going through, writing down, being specific about what you're grateful for. If you're a fan of TED Talks, you've got to listen to this one by David Steiner-Ross. He says, want to be happy, be grateful. He says this. He says, in daily life, we must see that it is not happiness that makes us grateful, but gratefulness that makes us happy. Isn't that great? You want to put that on Instagram, right? Gratefulness is the key to a happy life that we hold in our hands, because if we are not grateful, then no matter how much we have, we will not be happy, because we will always want to have something else or something more. One of my all-time favorite quotes. Because as a student at BYU, I had a professor who said, you can never get enough of what you don't need, because what you don't need will never satisfy you. Think about that with pornography for a second. You can never get enough of what you don't need. You don't need that. Because what you don't need will never satisfy you. It'll never substitute for a real, genuine connection. That's why you can never get enough of that. So gratitude, expressing gratitude one-on-one. Yes, it's okay. Get on your cell phone, send your children a text of gratitude. Because that is one of their ways of connecting. Third key is the insert key, inserting more kindness to them, just simple little things. Now that can be they're buying their favorite snack to a note in their backpack. That can be, I know one parent who shared this. He said he was doing this with his daughter. Just really going at it. What do I do, Dr. Dave? I said, kindness. Find time to insert some kindness. So they said, all right, I'm going to do their laundry. I'm going to fold it. I'm going to put it on my daughter's bed, and I'm going to put a note. And on there, he said, I'm so sorry that we've been doing this lately. I love you. In fact, he said, I love being your dad. To me, that's a little bit different than saying I love you. I love being your mom. It is one of the most greatest blessings of my life, is to be your dad. That's different. Then he left a Hershey's Kiss on top of that. And that will melt this. Faster than almost anything is that kindness. In fact, Martin Seligman, the father of positive psychology, he has said that doing a kind act produces the single most reliable momentary increase in well-being of any exercise that they've tested. And they've done tests for decades and decades and decades. What boosts happiness? Kindness. It's turning outward. It's not about me. It's turning outward, doing something kind for someone else. And so my challenge, and I challenge when I speak and I talk to students, I tell them to text 2 before 10. Text 2 people before 10 a.m. Try it for 3 days. A text of kindness, a text of love, a text of appreciation. In high schools, do this. Right before, I know in our kids' high school, they come on, they talk about the Good News Minute, they talk about the good things, and now do something kind for someone else today. Try text 2 before 10. Text your child, text a friend, say, hey, we need to get together sometime. I sure miss you. And it will lead to more genuine connections, is text 2 before 10. Another one that I talk about is I give out bookmarks to parents, and it's called Make Time for 9. Simple, make time for 9. That's 9 minutes of face-to-face conversation. It's 9 meaningful touches per day that we need. A 9-second hug. The 8-second hug is actually wrong. You have to have one more second on it. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. It just goes with 9. So make time for 9. A 9-second hug, you just get one more second. 9-second hug. And then I think the most important 9 minutes of the day, I break them up into 3, 3, 3. The first 3 minutes when a child wakes up, your spouse wakes up, make that time, just whether it's cozy time. I remember actually waking up early, going downstairs, jumping in the bed with our daughter, and just snuggling with her. Just 3 minutes is all it took. And I would put my hand through her hair and rub her back, and I'd say, you know, today I think we should just stay home and snuggle. And she'd be like, yeah. Now, we didn't actually do that, but it was actually just those first 3 minutes of the day. The first 3 minutes when your partner, your spouse, your child comes in through the door, put away everything if you can, and make that time for reconnection. That's what it's about. Just reconnect. How was your day? Tell me what was the best part of your day today. How did you do on your test? Follow 3 minutes is all we're asking. Because that's all we have, right? Our time is shrunk. And then the 3 minutes, right, the last 3 minutes of the day before they go to bed, whether that is story time or you're having family prayer. In our family, we do family happy thought. We have family prayer, and then I share one thing that made me happy that day. My wife shares a happy thought, and all of our kids, we share a happy thought. We focus on the good things that are going on in our lives. So we need to insert more kindness. The fourth key is the home key. That's more positivity and more love. Now, I did a study when I was at the University of Missouri of over 500 empty nesters. Any empty nesters here today? Empty nesters? Yeah, other hand. Now do this. Be like, yeah, I survived. Yes. Yeah, I survived. Empty nesters, that's who I surveyed, and I asked them several questions. One of the questions was, looking back, what do you regret? Now, this one can be tough, right? I didn't mean them to send them into a depression, but are there some things that you wish you would have done differently? Pass that on to me, because I did this study simply because I get one chance to be a dad, and I want to be the best dad I can be. And so who better to ask? Empty nesters. So I asked them that. And then I also asked them, are there some things that you're so glad that you did that you want to share with future generations? What are some of the things you're so glad that you did? And as I analyzed and I looked at the answers and I looked for themes and published this study, one of the things that they regretted was how harsh they were and losing it with their kids. They said, I wish I would have been less harsh and less judgmental and less critical of my kids. In fact, as I looked through all of their answers, there was not one empty nester, not a single one that said anything remotely close to, if I could have them back for just one more day, have them back, just to have them little, one more day in our house, I would just spank them one more time. I was just, no one said that. No one said that. It was the less harsh. In fact, the thing that they did say is, I wish I would have been more positive. I wish I would have given them more love and more attention and just hugged them more and made more memories and good times. That's what they say that they wish they would have done. So more positivity, more love, doing those things to show our loved ones, our family members. We don't know how long we have with our families. So showing them more positivity and more love. Now, each of us are born with a negativity bias. We have several biases, and one of those is a negativity bias, meaning we tend to notice those things that bug us. In other people, we tend to notice the negative. For example, as you look up at that green grass and you see brown, our eyes are drawn to the brown. We're 5 times as likely to notice the negative and see mistakes. Who saw it? Who saw it? Who saw the mistake? Yeah, you see that? Our eyes are drawn to the mistake that I made in that slide. Same thing with our kiddos. They come home, they have 5 A's and a C minus, where does our brain go? C minus, like, what the heck, in math, I thought you were going to talk to your teacher. They're like, Mom, but look, at English is so, no, you said you're going to, we get harsh on the negative. We point out their flaws in the morning and how they're dressed, and this doesn't match, and we're harp on the negative stuff. So we've got to get good at being more positive and pointing out the positives in those around us with compliments and good things, building them up instead of being critical and tearing them down. So all of us experience emotions in the present. In the present moment, that's when we're experiencing these emotions, but many of our emotions are anchored either in the past or in the future. But notice the types of emotions, for example, that are anchored in the past. It is the grief, it's the guilt, it's the shame, it's the sadness. Now, it's not that you shouldn't ever feel, that's not what I'm saying. You shouldn't ever feel these emotions. Just don't set up camp there. It's okay to look in the rearview mirror of life, but just don't stare in the rearview mirror of the past. What about those in the future? Look at the future emotions. This is stuff about worry and stress and dread and anxiety through the roof. Where is that? It's all in the future. It hasn't happened yet. So if we are consumed, right, 11 million pieces of information hit us every second. We can only focus on 40 bits per second. So our brains have to really sift through. And if they're consumed with the future, the past, then we can't be enjoying who we're with in the present moment. Look at the present emotions. Isn't that interesting? That this is what we're talking about today with the gratitude, with the kindness, with the good times, the memories, the connection. Those positive ones are right there now, in the present, being in the present. And our phones and everything else, that robs us of everything else that's going on. So being in the present with our emotions. The last one is the Alt key. That could be even Control, Alt, Delete here. Altering our response. Controlling our temper, our tongue, and our tone. And I could even throw in delete. Deleting negativity. So much is in our response. When I talk as a bishop in our church, and I have youth come and they talk to me about their struggles with pornography. And I say, as I counsel with them, and I talk to them, and then I say, have you talked with your parents yet? And they say, no way. They would go ham. And the first time I heard this, I said, they would give you a ham? And they're like, no, they would go ballistic. They would flip a lid. They would come unglued. They would take away my phone, Bishop. There's no way I would dare to talk to anybody about this because of their reaction to this instead of their response to this. And that makes all the difference, is when we find out about the struggle, find out about another slip. We get so emotional and we react. We tend to react rather than respond. Not taking the hook. That's one of the most important things we can do, is not to take the hook. I'll give you an example of a hook. Our oldest daughter, my wife and I, were headed out to a meeting one night after dinner, and we say, hey kids, can you help us? Can you wipe the counters? Can you put away things? Can you unload the dishwasher? It's not that hard. It won't take you that long. And our oldest daughter, remember this, she gets up, if it's not that hard, then why don't you do it? And I was like, right? Talk about Dr. Schramm going ham. I was like, whoa. Now, I recognized it. I was like, don't take the hook, Dave. Don't take the hook. So I went up to her and kind of did one of these, kicked her in the butt, and I was like, hey, listen, if you can help us get the dishes done, you can have some ice cream when we get home, okay? So not taking the hook, learning to respond rather than react. Now, there's a reason they don't call them first reactors. They're called first responders. And what does a first responder do? They come upon an accident, a situation, a pornography problem, and they assess the situation. They're actually trained to stop, look, listen, and respond. They check for heart rate and breathing, respirations, and we can do the same. With any kind of issue, we have got to learn, whether it's with a referee in one of our games or in our children or our partner, learning to stop, to pause, to take a breath, to look at the situation. How is this making me feel right now and why? It's making me angry and I'm about to go ham. Okay, look, view things from a different perspective. Think before you act. Putting myself in that person's shoes for a second creates empathy and compassion. And then listening, paying attention to the voice that's saying, yeah, jump on them, react. And the voice that is saying and whispering, People are more important than problems. People are more important than problems, and then choosing your response rather than the nuclear reaction and going off onto the person or that problem. So learning to be first responders rather than nuclear reactors. And it is more about, yes, it's about paying attention to our heart rate, but most importantly about getting our hearts right in that response. Here's the principle. Reactions ruin relationships. Period. Reactions ruin relationships. It's hardly ever, unless you know your child's falling off the counter or something and you're reacting. Yes, those kinds of reactions to help with safety. But overall, we've got to get better because those ruin the connections. It pulls up the barrier. And yeah, I'm not going to tell them because they would just react. If I told my wife, she would just react and she would divorce me. Learning to be able to respond rather than react. So those are 5 keys for connection that I hope will be a buffer that will help. Yes, pornography is fighting against it, but we've also got to create better connections in our family. So when the issue does come up, then they will feel like they can reach out. They will feel like they can talk and they can share the struggles that are going on in their life. And then we can learn to respond rather than react. Let me close with this. Have you ever had that day when you can't get your children to bed fast enough? Think back for some of you to when they were little, and you're just like, okay, yeah, and your heart rate's going up, and you're like, get in your bed, stay in your bed, stay in your bed, stay in, and you're like, $20 bill for anyone who stays in their bed, just stay in their bed. It was one of those days. I was at Mizzou, and our kids were like 8, 6, 4, and 2. Oh, yeah, this is stressful. And it was one of those, Dad, I'm coming out, I need a drink, I need to go potty. Okay, just stay in your beds. One more story. Okay, now, really, do not come out of your bed. I remember walking back to my bedroom feeling like, okay, I got to take a chill pill. Less than 5 minutes later, I heard it coming down the hall toward our bedroom door. My heart rate increases, and I was like, wait for it. And then I heard a noise on the bedroom door. I said, get back to your room. And I heard these footsteps take out. And I go and I open up the door, and there's a note. There's a note from our 8-year-old daughter. And this is a picture of the actual note. And she says, thanks a lot. I know it can be hard being a mom or dad, but you got to stick with it. And I thought, oh my gosh. Here's Dr. Dave with 10 years of school, and I'm the parenting pro, and I know what I'm doing. And I'm so frustrated, I don't know what to do. And some days you don't know what to do. Well, there's a pornography issue. But sticking with it. And then I'll leave you with these words. She says, look on the back. So I flip the note over, and it says, don't worry, we still love you. And I love that. Those who have struggles, the pornography issues, whatever issue it is, letting them know, don't worry, I still love you. Yes, things need to change, and you've got to stick with it. But don't worry, I still love you, and I'll help you through this. So thank you.
Thank you so much, and I love the illustration of your daughter. Kids do say the hardest things, and I've learned so much from kids of all ages. I learned so much from Smith today, and I think we do ourselves a disservice when we actually don't involve the kids more in our lives and listen to what they're actually saying. So thank you for that. That was just a great way to end our conference. Just a few things, if I may. You'll be pleased to know, at least I'm pleased to know, that today with Zoom and with people in attendance here, 1,495 people. We hit 26 states, so people joining us at Zoom. And we also were able to get to 6 countries today. Alberta, Canada, British Columbia, Canada, Egypt, Lima in Peru, St. Petersburg in Russia, and one from the UK. Isn't that great? I'm so glad. It's been great to share all of this, and you know, this would not have been possible without certain people. Where's Laurel? Laurel, our executive director, thank you very much, and all your hard work. Our board members, I know Josie's there, Dan, Clay, anybody, other board, but yes, sorry, Osmond, yeah, thank you for being here, all of you. Really appreciate all your hard work. And I hope you saw some of the exhibitors, our past exhibitors, on the screens as you came in, and explore their products. I think, that would be great. Particular thanks to our AV technicians and the great work that you've been doing up there, which reminds me, I wanted to let you know that what you saw today will be online on our website in 7 to 10 days. So if you want to refer your friends to it, I think that would be great. And as I said at the beginning, I just want to challenge everybody, wherever you are, if you're in the UK, Russia, Canada, wherever you are, please note that you're to do chats with at least 10 people. You can make it 12 if you want. I mean, I'm not going to stop you to go continuing on. And then help them to explore what is happening in this so-called pornographic world that people seem to delight in. We're hoping this administration with the new Attorney General will start prosecuting those entities that should be prosecuted. If you hear or see anything about it, join the movement. Dawn Hawkins and other people across the country are really tackling this problem at the highest level. We should, Senator Hatch was very involved with us earlier when he was still in DC, and got some crucial bills passed back in Congress. I want to remind you that our next conference will be at St. George on November the 14th, so you could put that in your calendars. I'm grateful for you joining us on Zoom, and grateful for you all joining us here. Have a safe journey. Stay away from the COVID. Make sure you're vaccinated, and please all take care of yourself, as well as